Hey, welcome back everybody. Today I'm in the barn, it's raining outside, and what I thought I would do is do a follow-up on my conveyor that I bought. It's not running right now, so in order to get it running I've got to do some work to it, and I thought, you know what, if I use this for log splitting and a conveyor to put wood on a trailer or something like that, it has to be running, obviously. And if I decide to sell it and not even keep it, it's still got to be running. So the first thing I'm going to do is replace some fittings on, well actually I'm going to take it to hydraulic shop and have them do it. We're going to replace some fittings on the end of some of these hoses because they need that. They were gummed up with mud and stuff. And then the next thing I'm going to do is lubricate the chassis and the pillow blocks and things like that and get it running. I'm going to use my old log splitter to do that. I'm going to route it through the hydraulics of the motor and hydraulics on the old log splitter to make this motor run. That's my plan anyhow. I'll give you an overview here in just a minute of what I'm up to, so stay tuned. Alright, here's one of the old pillow blocks. I'm going to go ahead and grease this up. That's how I'm going to start the process. And there's 4 of them. I got to put grease in all of them, make sure they're going to be free flowing and able to move. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and put some lubrication on the chain system. And here it is laying down on the floor on some pallet forks. And see what we can get done today. I went to the hydraulic shop, thought I'd get a shot of the guy putting my hoses together, but he wouldn't let me film it, so all I got was the machine before we actually hooked up the hoses. He said liability issues. Okay, not sure if we can get a good picture of this, but this one fitting that goes up in the bottom of the motor here, right here, the hose is literally broke off in there. So I got to replace this whole thing now. Bummer, because had the other hose that gets connected right there, I already had that made up and it's ready to go. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll just come back, I'll hook this thing up. But as you know, working on old equipment, that's never the way it goes. So back at the shop trying to hook this up, can't do it. To be continued tomorrow. Alright, well here's the little booger that I took out. And you can see that the threads, I don't know if you can or not, but the threads from that fitting are busted off inside. And I would try to use an easy out on this, but this is hydraulics. And so if you don't get it really clean on the inside, you can contaminate your whole system. So I'm kind of torn, I don't know what I'll do. Guess I'll wait until tomorrow morning and I'll make a decision. Well, I spent all day long just getting the right fittings on the hoses. Let me show you what I got here. I had to get a new fitting on here and an adapter. So that's on the end of the hose that was on the conveyor. I got that. I actually had this all hooked up to my old log splitter and thinking I was going to use this engine and the hydraulics and the pump and everything on here to power this conveyor, which, you know, it'll work. Problem was, I tried to start this engine and it wouldn't start. It had been sitting for a while, so I had to monkey around with that. I got it to where it's going to run enough that I could see how this is going to work. And then what I discovered was, I'm going to show you, you'll be able to tell from this angle here, if you look straight down along this line, this is straight. And when this started to actually run, this pump is not parallel. So the chain, I wonder why the chain was starting to get loose. Well, the chain's starting to get loose because it's coming off that back sprocket, where this pump right here is actually pulling out this way and going in that direction. And it's just literally pulling away. So I got to redo this bracket right here. So that's my next project before I can get this thing running. But it's going to run because when I started to get it going, all the chain, all the linkage and the chain and everything started moving on it just like it should. So I have no doubt it's going to run. I got to weld a new bracket for this. after I get that bracket fixed, then I can hook up this log splitter to it again and get it running. I'll hopefully be able to film that. Alright, because that bracket that this motor gets mounted to bent, I thought it would be good to reinforce it. So what I did was, hopefully I'll be able to get down here and show you. What I did was I went in and put a piece of angle iron on the bottom of that plate so that it can't bend anymore, and then I just welded that in place. Let's see if I can get around here. There you go, you can see that angle iron. And that runs the whole length of that mounting plate so that motor can't twist again. Now the next thing I gotta do is I gotta take this little Allen screw that adjusts this one sprocket, gotta loosen it and then set this chain straight, because it's almost straight now, but once I get it pushed over a little bit it will be. Well, okay, we're at the moment of truth. Long story short, I had to actually rebuild the well, not rebuild the carburetor, but clean the carburetor on this engine. It sat in the woods for about 1.5 years covered under plastic, and you know what an engine's like when that happens. I actually ran it dry, but I didn't anticipate the amount of gas that was still left in the carburetor and the bowl. So I got gummed up. It took me a while to clean the carburetor. Now I've got this hooked up. What I've got is the hydraulic line coupled right there, you can see, by the tire, and it runs over through a big long hose. That's what came with this particular conveyor. And I got it running into one of the ports over there, and I'm not sure if I have this going the right direction or the wrong direction, but it really doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that it's going to run, because you can always change that later, make it run in whatever direction you want. I had to weld a bracket underneath there, as you saw. The chain is still not going exactly straight, but it should be good enough, I hope. Anyhow, that's the arrangement I've got. Now we're going to do fire it up and see what happens. I'm going to start this up, but I'm going to be ready to shut it down quick, just in case something's goes wrong. Anyhow, here we go. Well, I took the chain off because I think what's happening is I think the motor is going to run fine. I'm going to verify that now, and I think that there's something else froze up on this, possibly one of the shafts, maybe this one with the gear, this one in the rear is froze up, maybe the one in the front. I don't know what it is, but every time the motor starts and it torques, it's pulling itself loose, and that's how that bracket underneath it there that I had to weld got damaged the first time I tried this. Something is not free, and I'm not sure what. Alright, I got the chain off, and I'm going to go ahead and start up this engine, and I got a light in there on that gear connected to the motor, and just want to see if this is going to turn freely. Alright, let's see if that motor is going to turn without any tension on it. Okay, we know the motor's good. No problem at all, it'll handle it. Now whatever's frozen up in here, whatever, maybe this, not sure what, but I gotta figure that out next before I try this again. Anyhow, we're getting there. Taking a while. Well, I found one of the problems. When I took this chain off, you can see that it doesn't bend easily. And there's 3 or 4 links right here that are like frozen together. There's several here that are really stiff. There's another section right here that's frozen, stiff, rusted, corroded together. And then this here is nice and pliable. Some of this, I put some penetrating oil on that. I'm going to have to see if I can either clean this up or I'm going to have to replace it, because this is one of the culprits for why it won't run. So it just torques itself and rips bolts and damages bracing and everything else. Well, that's going to have to be it for this segment of the conveyor project, because I'm going to have to take these drive chains that are on here, pull those. I'm going to have to pull everything and make sure that it's all free before I start it up again, because I don't want to have a repeat of this. It's just taking way too much time. A lot more time than I thought it would, a lot more time than it should. So I'm just going to be cautious now from here on out and take things apart, lubricate them, make sure everything's functioning properly before I start this thing up again. So stay tuned for segment number 3 of the Conveyor Project. As always, I'm Bob with Life in the Mountains. Thanks for watching. See you next time.